70mai A810 versus Viofo A119 Mini 2. Let's go! Starting with build quality. The build quality on both of these cameras is excellent, so it's kind of hard to choose a winner, but I'm going to go with the 70mai for two reasons. First of all, the lens on the 70mai rotates up and down smoothly, whereas the A119 Mini 2 clicks into place. This isn't inherently bad, and the clicking mechanism is pretty solid, but if your windshield falls between one of the two clicks, I find that sometimes it's just a little bit off in terms of my preferred windshield alignment. I want to be able to adjust and point the lens wherever I want it. Second up is the screen, and if you haven't noticed, the A119 Mini 2 is small, whereas the 70mai is a chunkster. But you know what they say about size of screen, it's not the most important characteristic. The 70mai screen is viewable from any angle without substantial color shift, whereas the A119 Mini screen is very poor quality. It's low resolution and off-axis colors look quite bad, which can make it hard to adjust from the driver's seat. For design, I'm giving it to Viofo because the camera is so much smaller. It hides better on my windshield. As well, the Viofo has a dedicated emergency button that has a different texture and a different symbol on the button itself, so it's easier to find in an emergency. How about durability and longevity? Well, this category is an easy win for the A119 Mini 2 because that camera is based off of a super capacitor. The 70mai, on the other hand, it's based off of a battery. And while both cameras do function, they turn on, record, turn off, I suspect thanks to that super capacitor, the A119 Mini 2 is going to do better in hot and cold climates on a hot summer day without overheating. User interface and ease of setup goes to the A810, and it's not just because of that giant screen, which helps a ton. The on-screen guide makes it super easy to set this camera up, and the menus are intuitively laid out, broken into different categories based on the kind of setting you're trying to change, versus the Viofos, which is just one long list. How about the apps? Well, Wi-Fi worked fine on both cameras, with the apps being able to change settings, playback videos, preview, all of that sort of good stuff. But the winner here is the Viofo, because it has 5 GHz Wi-Fi, which is substantially faster for transferring files. The A810 for some reason is stuck on an old 2.4 GHz standard, which seems like a strange decision considering this camera has 4K resolution. Video quality, well, the A810 is a 4K camera and the A119 Mini 2 is a 2K camera. Both are based on Sony Starvis 2 sensors, which are excellent in pretty much all conditions. To be clear, both of these cameras have awesome video quality with good license plate readability, pleasing color rendering, good motion rendering, and low noise. These clips were shot in HDR mode, which brings out more shadow and highlight details. It's my favorite mode on both of these cameras. As far as video quality goes, well, the Mini is close. So close, in fact, I think the differences will be negligible if you're watching this on a smartphone. On a big screen, there's just a little bit more noise in the Mini's video, and just a little bit more detail in the 70mi's. When it comes down to it, it's pixel peeping. Although I did notice that in some situations, I preferred the way the 70mai rendered the sky versus the A119 Mini 2. Check out this clip for example. The A119 Mini 2 is just this solid blue, very little gradient to the sky. That's not what the sky looks like. 70mai on the other hand has this nice pleasant gradient. Sure, things are a little bit blown out. Can still tell that there's clouds there though. The 70mai is the kind of footage that I would use if I were going on a road trip and wanted to record in a real nice, pleasant detail, whereas I find the color rendering on the Viofo a little bit less realistic and more utilitarian. It pulls out shadow details more, has a little bit lower contrast. In some cases, it's easier to read license plates because of its color processing. But again, this is all just such little nitpicky details that it honestly hardly matters. Where the difference is more apparent between these two cameras, however, is at night. Night footage on the A810 is superior to the Mini in almost every way. There's virtually no noise and the sky is smooth. Highlights and shadows have minimal ghosting from HDR. Some things are readable even with a little bit of speed. This night footage is impressive. The Mini doesn't slouch either. Compared to older cameras based on Starvis 1 sensors, the Mini is far and above superior, but there's less noise reduction applied, and I found a slight tendency to blow out more highlights.
You know, it's funny, we went from super bright orange sodium vapor streetlights to LEDs that have turned blue or purple with age. Completely the opposite of the color spectrum. These ones are still nice and white though. You know, it's funny, we went from super bright orange sodium vapor streetlights to LEDs that have turned blue or purple with age. Completely the opposite of the color spectrum. These ones are still nice and white though. The other things I wish 70mai had in terms of its lock recording button, just something to differentiate that button. Maybe a different color or a different texture, or something so that you could reach up and feel you're pressing the right button, press it, and not have to actually look at the camera to confirm it. You could reach up and feel you're pressing the right button, press it, and not have to actually look at the camera to confirm it. The camera does tell you that it's locked the recording by beeping quite loudly, but that's you still really need to look at the camera and confirm that you haven't turned off the microphone by accident.
The last thing it comes down to is features. The A810 has some ADAS features that the Viofo doesn't have. However, Viofo's parking mode is substantially more robust. The A810 has a rear camera option, as long as you don't mind bumping your frame rate down to 25 frames per second. But the A119 Mini 2 has this cool feature called HDR timer. If you don't want to use HDR during the day or during the night, you can set it up to automatically turn on and off at your preference. So which is the winner, the 70mai A810 or the Viofo A119 Mini 2? Well, they're both excellent starter dash cams, but it really comes down to the required features. The A810 has the option for the rear camera, even though it drops the frame rate. The A810 has a giant screen and is super easy to set up. The A810 has superior video quality both day and night. It is excellent, almost GoPro level of quality. The A119 Mini, on the other hand, is so much smaller. It's way more compact and fits better in many vehicles. The video quality is excellent, even if it is outshined a little bit by the A810. And there are a bunch more advanced features such as low bitrate parking mode, different parking mode timers, and other little things that the A810 is missing. Plus, the super capacitor versus the battery is kind of a big deal if you live in a really hot or really cold climate. Thing is that I see the video quality as a bit of a red herring. Those of you who are not YouTube influencers, don't plan on watching the footage very often, and just want a camera that's super reliable, turns on with the car, turns off with the car, records the drive, the A119 Mini 2 can't go wrong with it. A higher video resolution means more heat generated from processing, plus a battery, plus heat from the sun. That's a combination whose reliability remains to be seen. As a bit of a bonus, many people have asked me to do a comparison between the Viofo A229 and the 70mai A810. And I don't really think that this is a fair comparison because my A229 has drifted out of focus with age. This camera is running constantly in my car 24/7 generating heat, and yeah, that's made things a little bit blurry. If we look at the edge of the footage, it's a little bit better, I guess. But yeah, realistically, the A810 crushes the A119 Mini 2, which then crushes the A229. So yeah, in terms of video quality, the hierarchy is pretty clear. Hey, thanks for watching. Let me know which camera you prefer in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe. I appreciate all of your support.